Hey guys, Thomas Cicilla Jr. here, aka Mustached Tom, here to review Lady and the Tramp, the 2019 CGI live-action adaptation of the original Lady and the Tramp by Disney. Now, before I begin the review, if you end up enjoying it, then please feel free to check out the description. That will have my Patreon page. Any donations will be desperately needed. So, with that being said, I didn't even know that they were doing Lady and the Tramp, but I'm not even surprised that they ended up doing Lady and the Tramp. I didn't see it promoted too much, but it sort of just popped up. So yeah, I'm here to review it. So Disney has had a interesting regard to live-action adaptations. To recap, The Lion King royally messed up with they tried so hard to figure out the whole CGI mess, but then they messed up the story while trying to also almost keep it the same, but, they took out the most important part of the movie, so it failed in that regard. As well as having trouble with the emotions of the characters, and I feel like Lady and the Tramp, at least in terms of the CGI, was trying to figure out and trying to answer that critical complaint from the last time in The Lion King of the CGI just, you aren't able to emote it as well, etc., etc. And, that issue goes on and on. The other movie that I feel like, as in regards to this, in terms of live-action musical, is Aladdin, which I thought was fine for the most part. It still had a great deal of issues. Its ending was a lot more stupid, in terms of, the Big Bird and stuff like that. That was an unnecessary change, I felt. And other issues, there's this one oddity in the CGI that I remember talking about. Other than that, I felt like Aladdin was fine. So that brings us to Lady and the Tramp. I do apologize, I just wanted to recap in terms of where we are, in terms of where the mindset is in this, because I feel like they were shooting, they were thinking about this while they were shooting those movies and heard the responses and then had the response come out as an effect from that. So we start the movie with a long shot moving in. Come on up on to the house, and the two adults, I know I wrote their names way later in my notes, but I'll just call them the parents, or the adults, the husband and wife character. They get the puppy, they name her Lady, and she's waddling her way up to to their bed and wants to sleep with them. Once we see her in the bed, we transition from her being a puppy to her being an adult. So she's groomed, and after that they give her little tag, her dog tag. So she finds a rat, and ends up chasing it away from the house. And that rat will be pretty important to the movie. I do apologize, I have not seen the original Lady and the Tramp in a long time, so I don't remember there being a rat. So I don't know how one-to-one this is. There is one song that is different, and I'll talk about that because I think I know why they did it, and yeah, but we'll get to that. Anyway, so she goes outside, she talks to Trusty, this tall dog, and then I believe the other dog, Doc, is the short little black dog, who I do recall in the original movie being a male, and now it's a female. That's whatever, it doesn't really matter. So we see that the mother of lady's character is going to have a child from the time jump, so they were planning or whatever. So we cut to a factory where we meet Tramp. And bizarre story is that way back when I first saw the movie, when I heard the name of the movie Lady and the Tramp, I used to never really knew what Tramp meant for like the longest time. And like before even hitting this review, I had to make sure. I was like, what the fuck is a tramp? And it ends up being it's a homeless person that goes from place to place. That is actually what a tramp means. I actually did not, again, I did not know that for like the longest time, and I never had the wherewithal and the time to like just look it up, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, so, he's got his bag of fleas or whatever. Oh, sorry, he gets found in fleas, as in he runs away. I said he had fleas. Well, maybe he does, I don't know. So he's like scavenging for food, and he ends up like stealing food from this guy, or this woman, after like tricking her into thinking like the guy like stole her food or vice versa. And then he ends up doing the Aladdin thing, which is actually why I brought the Aladdin up. He gives like the food that he steals to others. He gives it to these two smaller puppies. And he sees these two, after he like moves a bit, he sees these two dogs that have been caught by the dog catcher. And for all intents and purposes, I don't think they give him another name, so I'll just refer to him as the dog catcher. So he like pretends to like play dead after talking to the two dogs, and after they convince him, he plays dead. He waits for the dog catcher to unlock the door and lets them find their way. He runs into two dogs that are like the shaven. I don't know my dog species that well. They're like the tall, floofy white dogs. And he assumes like one of them's like a female, and then he's like, hey, I'm like married or whatever, and he's like, oops. So he like runs off from the dog catcher. And meanwhile, there's a party happening in the lady household. And she's very confused about like what's going on. Looking around, seeing all these people and whatever. Uh-oh. God damn it. Sorry. I lost my plates and my notes because I don't know why that happens. Anyway. So, as I was saying, lady is like looking around, very confused, and Tramp sees the dog catchers on his trail, so he ends up like on the opposite side of the fence of lady, and the two of them are like talking. He eventually tricks his way over, and lady starts off with like barking at him, and he's like trying to convince her not to let him, get caught. So he's using the knowledge of baby power to get her to not let him get caught. Oh, excuse me. So the dog catcher is in the area, and Tramp explains how the baby will replace her, the dog, and the other two dogs that are like her friends, the tall dog and the little one, help to like try to get him out of the situation. The two adults, and I finally wrote their names, Jim and Darling, hear that the baby is born, or has been born, and they're having the baby party at this point. So the doctor that's there enters and leaves, and from there we hear Darling sing this La La Lu song to the baby, which is what she sang to Lady at the very beginning of the movie. So she checks in with her dog pals after the fact, and here sees the rat once more and tries to chase it off once again. So we have I don't remember if this was a thing that happened in the first movie or they changed it. Darling has a mother that is like trying to look after her named Sarah. So she comes over, and the two leave with Sarah in charge of Lady, and she's the one who has the two cats. And of course, this is where this comes in. Now, originally, in the original Lady and the Tramp, this is the song where Siamese Cats comes in. And I think I know why Disney got rid of it, because other people would have said that's racist. That's a racist song. It's like the whole thing with Dumbo and the Blackbirds. It's racist because it's a different ethnicity, and that's it. That's what racism has come to. There's a different race, and they say certain things that are stereotypical, but are not actually racist. And they were afraid that too many people would call them out for being racist. So they removed the song "We Are Siamese Cats," which again isn't a racist song. And I feel so. This is like one of my pet peeves. For those of you who don't know, I hate when people misuse the word racism. It's like so annoying to have that kind of word misused, and that confusion of like racism has just become, if you even mention a certain thing, it's like racist now. And it hasn't gotten any better, by the way. It has stayed really, really bad. So I figured I'd take this time to go on my little rant about like how the difference between something that is racist and something that is a stereotype. So yes, "We Are Siamese Cats" is a stereotypical song. It names what the cats are, and they have accents that heavily imply that is exactly what they are, and I think some of the other lyrics also imply that as well. Again, very stereotypical song, but not racist. Racist would imply that race A, I'm not even going to say any race in particular, is either better or worse than every other race in existence. That is what racism actually is. A stereotype is group A does a certain thing or is a certain thing. Not that they are better or worse for it, but are simply doing something that every other person of that ethnicity does. That is the difference between stereotypes and racism. I hope you're well educated now. So yes, that song is not racist. There you go. There's your thing. However, the song is still kind of boring, so them taking it out still doesn't even bother me. Like, they could have left that song in, and I'm pretty sure they would have gotten the flack for it, but, I mean, the song's still kind of boring anyway, so them replacing it actually doesn't matter at all, because the song was boring. So yes, the new two cats, who are technically twins, I guess they're just something else now. They're not Siamese cats, even though I think they technically are. And they sing a new song called, what's it called? Too Bad, What a Shame. And this song, from the sound of it, sounded a bit more upbeat, which is something I think that scene needed to be. They wreck the house, essentially. And they break over Sarah's gift. She brought a gift over. It was like a vase. So she brings over Lady to this dog shop to give her a dog muzzle to put over her face. And in the process, she has her tag taken off to put on the muzzle, but she manages to escape. So as she like wanders off and gets lost, this bigger dog comes over to like threaten her, and that's when Tramp also conveniently comes in to save the day. Um, he comes in, tricks the dog with Lady's assistance, and Lady asks assistance to remove the mask muzzle. So he takes her over to find a place to remove the mask muzzle. So Lady goes off and kind of ends up following Tramp because she's now lost because she's never left home. And Tramp decides to go ahead and guide her home. So he's pointing out the dog catcher as a sort of an excuse to like take this boat and like end up like going the long way. So, Lady has her own way of getting on board the boat, and as soon as they both board, some music plays, and Tramp sings, or more howls, as they sort of make their way back over and start traveling. So they go traveling together, crossing this bridge, and they head over to the very famous restaurant, probably the most famous scene in the Lady and the Tramp movie. It's probably the scene people remember the most about this movie. Let's be real here. So Lady has like starting to forget about home because they're having their time of their life. So they head over to the little restaurant, and they get the classical meatball and the lasagna, I think it is, or pasta, I should say. And the two owners of the store sing the song, and they recreate the kiss scene as the two dogs scoop up the same strand of pasta and they pooch up the kiss. And then they go into the fountain after the fact. And Tramp shows her like this whole city view and teaches her how to howl at the moon. So Lady remembers as she's looking out, she's wondering about home, but she's like, oh, I wonder if I can see my home. Oh, that moment. So she starts to think about home again, and Tramp talks about how he had a home before, and how he was left behind and left abandoned as soon as the parents of his household had a baby. So that is exactly why he had that sort of moniker in the beginning of the movie. So the dog catcher finds them, and the two of them split up. And of course the dog catcher immediately goes after Tramp, who goes off into this train station where he used to like stay. Meanwhile, the lady ends up like stopping and starts to head back to Tramp, and she even acts as a distraction. And in the process, she ends up being caught, and Tramp ends up seeing this happen and is locked up, and Lady is locked up. So he kind of makes his own way, kind of feeling like he can't do anything. And he sees that the two dogs that were like at him were like the two free dogs we saw earlier got caught. Lady ends up with them. And one of them, the female of the two, they're like a couple, she ends up singing the Tramp song. And they keep that one for one, or as one as to one as that song can be, I suppose. So the parents end up removing Sarah from the picture, and Lady ends up Lady is saved by her caretakers, and she gets to meet the baby of the household. And we have a little montage of the family all hanging out. And at some point after that, she mentions how to the other two, her friend dogs, that street dogs just aren't lucky enough to have a home, and that's essentially that. So Lady heads out to the moon and howls. She's all upset and sad. She's still thinking about Tramp. And the two dogs I mentioned end up getting, like, adopted after the fact, and Tramp bumps into them, talking to them. And he's still thinking about her. So Tramp heads out, and the catcher kind of catches a glimpse of him. So Tramp visits Lady, and they talk about the movie's, like, sort of overarching theme about being free and being alone. And this is from Tramp's perspective. So he's talking about how he has no value. He sees himself as someone who has no value, and Lady doesn't think that he does. That he, too, deserves... that he has natural value and that he deserves love. And after they part ways because she still doesn't think that she can be that love at that point in time, she sees the rat again and kind of goes after that. But Lady sees the dog catcher coming in, and Tramp manages to overhear the commotion that is going on. The rat has moved up into the house and is moving in on the baby, while the dog catcher has moved into the house to wait for Tramp to return. And Tramp overheard this, so he went to return. So the dog catcher's inside. Meanwhile, Tramp checks the room and finds the baby. Him and the rat fight. Tramp is making all this sorts of noise. The carriage falls, but the baby is fine. So the parents head up and they see it, and they assume, at that point in time, because they caught the very end of it, they assume that Tramp is, like, trying to hurt the baby. So the dog catcher, like, rushes up, catches Tramp, and after that, after he's taken away, Lady uncovers the rat for the parents to see. So Lady runs off with her two dog companions, and the husband kind of, like, has the light bulb effect of, well, not the actual one, but it's like, oh wait, we actually never saw the dog attack, so that's a bit odd. Probably should do something about that then. So the old dog hound, Lucky or whatever his name was, I actually forgot. I wrote it way at the top. I'm too lazy to scroll up on my notes here. Gains confidence after being talked to by the smaller dog, and picks up the trail. So they'd follow her. They follow the trail. Lady stops the carriage and then it falls over, with Tramp still inside of it, but so that causes, like, Lady to be like, oh no, and, like, howling to wake him up, and this he does. So the dog catcher still tries to take him in, but the two parents arrive on the scene, and they claim that they are going to, well, they claim they already own Tramp at that point. So the dog catcher does eventually give up at that point in time. A guy just trying to do his job, but, you know, this is at a time of other unfortunate circumstance, because they keep in the scene where, by the way, the dog catcher brings in that one dog, and then all the dogs are, like, talking about, like, how that's the end of the line. That's technically based on something that used to be true, by the way. So that's why they keep it in. To add that little air of dread. With cutting back to current time, we cut to Christmas time, and we see that the two puppies that I mentioned way earlier, they get adopted they're with the small black dog. Tramp gets his own color, so the two bring him in, and the mom sings them all a song, the new family, and that was Lady and the Tramp. And it was fine. Like, it was probably, oddly enough, it was, like, probably the worst in terms of how they promoted it and like the best in terms of like the movie was totally fine. How bizarre is that? Like, I don't remember this movie getting promoted at all, and it ended up being like the closest thing that I can think of as to like doing the remake, doing it justice, and I think they added a few things in here. They changed some of the other obvious things that Disney's like so afraid of, like, oh no, racism that XG isn't racism, so we gotta change the song. The changes are fine because they replaced a boring song anyways, so that doesn't really matter. They replaced it for a more catchy song. Other than that, yeah, 7 out of 10. 7 out of 10. I think I gave Aladdin this. I think I might have given it a 6 out of 10. I don't even remember. But yeah, I'm actually kind of surprised. Like, the least promoted movie, in terms of what I've seen, in terms of, like, what was being promoted, ends up being, like, the most solid. Who knew? I think the other reason why I'm probably also very lenient is that in terms of, like, big Disney movies, I don't know if Lady and the Tramp is necessarily on the top tier of, like, you don't mess with that movie too much. I think that's probably why this one, to me, also feels like it's very solid, is that its nostalgic value isn't very high, at least for me. I don't know about other people, but I don't think I would rank it that high. Like, again, top tier, like, if you mess with the movie, you better make sure you're increasing the volume, you're increasing the characters, you're increasing instead of decreasing like The Lion King did. It removed more than it added. It removed, again, the most important part of the movie, and if you do that, you ruin the movie. Point blank. So yeah, I think they strictly kept most of the important things the same. Even when they were fearful of, of what they were fearful of, it ended up just being fine anyways, regardless. So yeah, I'm gonna stick with a 7 out of 10. How about that? How about that, Disney? You did it. You finally made a successful reboot, remake, that is live action CGI. Soft golf clap for you. Anyways, that is my review of Lady and the Tramp, and if you enjoyed it, then please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, make sure to check out those links in the description. One will head you over to my Discord server, the other to my Patreon page. Any donations are greatly appreciated. Until next time, everyone, bye-bye.